Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode number 47, Week 2 recaps, and this is a birthday special. Happy birthday to me. Okay, before we get any further along, let's make sure that everybody is in the room.
Wingmen assemble!
All right, now that everyone is here, let's get right into the recaps for Week 2. Let's start off with our first game. It's going to be Paul's Cubert Rage up against Michael's Amazing Spidey. And this game was tight going into Monday night as Amazing Spidey had two players in his lineup on Monday going up against Paul's Cubert Rage, who had one team in his lineup on Monday night, and it was a 10-point differential going in. However, with the strong performance of the Pittsburgh defense, Paul's Cubert Rage dominated the final score against Amazing Spidey, defeating him 117.56 to 95 points even. Amazing Spidey was the highest scoring loser of the week with 95 points.
You lose!
As for top performers for Paul's team, he had Josh Allen with 23.66 points. Pittsburgh defense showed up huge with 22 points. Rashad White got to play against the Bears and got 18.8 points. And David Montgomery, solid as ever, had 13.9 points.
He's heating up!
And Paul had no duds this week. He did have one strong bench player of Michael Evans scoring 26.1 points on his bench.
He's heating up!
As for Paul's injuries, he had David Montgomery leave the game early with a thigh injury.
Oh, no!
And DK Metcalf also left the game early with a rib injury, although he was able to finish off the game. Both players are considered day-to-day, although David Montgomery is most likely to miss at least a game or two going forward. As for Michael's Amazing Spidey's team and players, he had some strong players despite the loss. He had Nico Collins score 24.1 points.
He's heating up!
He had Patrick Mahomes get 23.2 points.
He's heating up!
And Christian McCaffrey scored 21.1 points.
He's heating up!
As for his duds, it was a big one as Dameon Pierce only scored 4.5 points as Amazing Spidey decided to sit Raheem Mostert and put in Pierce, and that showed to be a 20-plus point mistake as he had strong bench players as Raheem Mostert scored 25.2 points left on the bench.
He's heating up!
Rookie Puka Nacua scored 22.6 points on the bench.
He's heating up!
And Justin Herbert had 22.2 points on the bench.
He's heating up!
Amazing Spidey was fortunate, though, to make it through the week without any major injuries. All right, on to our next game. We have Alex's They Took Our Jobs up against Reggie's Lion Eyes. And this was a battle of two winless teams. And one team had to prevail, and it was They Took Our Jobs as Alex's team defeated Reggie's team 88.12 to 71.34. And Reggie had the lowest score of the week. All right, as for top performers from Alex's team, he had Jalen Hurts score 27.22 points. And pardon me, do you have any great Bijan Robinson had 19.2 points?
He's heating up!
The Tampa Bay defense was also solid with 14 points. As for duds on Alex's roster, he had Miles Sanders with only 6.2 points. Jerry Jeudy in his season debut only had 4 points. And Romeo Doubs also only had 4 points. He did leave one strong player on his bench as Russell Wilson had 29.92 points on the bench. And Alex made it through the week without any major injuries. As for Lionized, he had top players of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 13.2 points.
He's heating up!
And kicker Cam Digger chipped in with another 10 points.
He's heating up!
As for his duds, he had Brandon Ayuk score only 5.2 points.
Hadouken!
And Jamal Williams, Saints running back, only had 2.9 points. Once again, Reggie had more points on his bench than he did in the starting lineup. And some of those strong bench players consisted of Jared Goff getting 24.92 points, TJ Hawkinson getting 22.1 points, and Christian Kirk had 16.5 points. Lionized team might have well been in the hospital as he had so many injuries this week. Anthony Richardson left the game early with a concussion. Brandon Ayuk left the game, returned, and left the game, and returned again with a shoulder injury. Luckily for him, this is not a serious injury, although he's probably going to miss a game or two, especially this week as the 49ers play on Thursday night. Jamal Williams left the game early with a hamstring injury. And Amon-Ra St. Brown was deemed to have cramps, although later reports show that he may have turf toe. So tough break for injuries for Reggie, although none of them are long-term. On to our next game. We have Kory's Mac Daddy 2s up against Nick's Waddle away, and this was a battle of two winless teams. But Kory's team, it was a battle of the Bears as Kory had Justin Fields up against Waddle away's DJ Moore and Khalil Herbert. Last week, Kory's team scored about 76 points, and this week he had a whopping 126 for the biggest turnaround of the week. All right. So Kory had the highest score at 126.94, and he defeated Nick's Waddle away, who had 92.86. As for top scorers for Kory's team, he had Saquon Barkley with 24.2 points. CeeDee Lamb had 19.8 points, and Deebo Samuel had 19.1 points. Ramondre Stevenson had 13.5, and Brandon McManus had 10 points. Kory had 0 duds and had just as many top performers on his bench as he had the highest scoring bench this week. He could have played any combination of players, and he would have utterly dominated. So on his bench, he had DeAndre Swift with 25.6 points, Geno Smith with 23.12 points, Tyler Lockett had 21.9, and Gabe Davis had 18.2. As for his injuries, he had Saquon Barkley with a late game ankle injury.
Oh,
no! The coach for the Giants says that he is not sure if he's going to be in or out, although I think that's just coach speak with it, as they have a short week with a Thursday night game. So he's going to be out at least a game and potentially up to 3 for Saquon Barkley, although the MRI showed that it is not a high ankle sprain. It is, I guess, a normal ankle sprain. As for Nick's Waddle away, he had some strong performers despite the loss, as he had Devontae Smith show up once again, getting 21.1 points.
He's heating up.
Tony Pollard showing consistency at 16.4 points.
He's heating up.
DJ Moore rebounds off the dud list to get 13.2 points, and Justin Tucker chipped in with 11 points. As for Nick's duds, he had Nick Chubb get only 6.4 points as he had to leave the game early with an injury. And on his bench, he had some strong players of Dak Prescott with 19.6, Sky Moore with 14.5, and Mark Andrews in his season debut had 13.0 points. Now for his injuries, he had the worst one of the week, potentially the worst one of the season, as Nick Chubb's season is over with a catastrophic knee injury.
Oh, no!
That is a tough blow to Nick's Waddle away team. Tough blow indeed. On to our next game, we have Jimerson's Red Sox Nation up against Bernie's Team B. And this was a battle of two unbeaten teams. At the moment of week 2 starting out, it was the number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. And Red Sox Nation was looking for a Bengals bounce back. And boy, did he get it. As Jimerson's Red Sox Nation defeated Bernie's Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
114.98 to 75.20. And this was the biggest blowout of the week with a 39.78 point differential. Now for top performers from Red Sox Nation, he had T. Higgins rebound from his goose to get a 24.9 point game. James Cook had 17.9 points. Devontae Adams had 17.4 points. And newly acquired kicker Jake Moody got 14 points. As for the duds for Red Sox Nation, Joshua Kelly was picked up, put in the lineup, and disappointed with 3.9 points. And Red Sox Nation had many big-time scores left on his bench, as he had Kyron Williams get 25 points on the bench. George Pickens get 20.7 points. Jordan Love showing up again with 20.34 points. And Terry McLaurin had 13.9 points. As for injuries for Red Sox Nation, he had Joe Burrow aggravate his calf injury.
Oh, no!
At this point, it's not sure if he's going to miss any time or not, but it's potential that he's going to miss 1 to 2 weeks, I would think, at least. Also, he had Devontae Adams leave the game late with a concussion, although the report so far is that he is recovering well, although he is not out of the concussion protocol quite yet. As for Team B's scores, he had Ken Walker, Texas Ranger, get 17.9 points, and Young Shui Koo added 13 points. And he had a lot of duds this week as DeAndre Hopkins had only 6.0 points. A.J. Brown with only 4.9 points. Calvin Ridley with only 4.2 points. And his New York Jets defense, who saved his booty last week, only gave him 1 point this week. As for players on his bench that outperformed, he had Daniel Jones get 32.74 points on his bench. And Zach Moss, newly acquired running back, got 18.7 points. As for the injuries for Team B, he had Jalen Waddle leave the game early with a concussion, and Odell Beckham left the game early with an ankle injury.
Oh, no.
Although at this point, it seems like both players have a good chance of still playing this week, although you're going to want to check in later in the week to be sure about their statuses going forward. On to our last game. This is another battle of unbeaten teams, as we have Katie's King George up against Ken's Tampa Brady, and this game was the closest, the latest, as Ken was down 23 points going into Monday night, and he had 2 players to go, while King George had all our players locked up by Sunday. He was down by 23 points, and he had Chris Olave and Najee Harris in his lineup, and he just needed one of them to score and get some yards, and he would have had a chance for a big-time comeback, but that did not happen, as Katie's King George was able to hold on, defeating Ken's Tampa Brady 96.18 to 88.34. This was our closest game of the week at just under 8-point differential. Now for King George's top performers, she had Lamar Jackson recover from a dud week in week 1 to get 22.88 points. And Justin Jefferson, solid as ever, had 21.4 points.
He's heating up.
James Conner with a nice game of 16.6 points. And Garrett Wilson still showed up, getting 15.3 points. She did have one dud of Travis Etienne, who had 5.2 points. And on her bench, she had a monster game out of newly acquired Brian Robinson, who had 27.9 points.
He's heating up.
Drake London rebounded from his goose last week to get 15.7 points, and she made it through the week without any major injuries. As for Ken's Tampa Brady, he had a monster game from Keenan Allen, who had 27.1 points, and Derrick Henry rebounded nicely with a 17-point game. Now for troubling news, Jamar Chase is in the dud list for the second straight week at only 5.6 points, and Najee Harris let him down as he needed just a little bit more on Monday night, as he scored only 4.8 points. As for his bench players who outperformed, he had Kirk Cousins get 30.56 points.
He's heating up.
Jordan Addison, also for the Vikings, had 14.7 points.
He's heating up.
And Marquise Brown on his bench had 14.4 points. All right, guys, let's check in on the Goose-O-Meter.
I'm just cruising along.
All right, we had no change in our Goose-O-Meter this week, as luckily no one got a goose. So they took our jobs, and Red Sox Nation both tied with 1 goose each. All right, guys. Let's check in on the season standings after 2 weeks. All right, we have Red Sox Nation is still in first place and unbeaten at 2-0. But we have Mac Daddy 2s climbing all the way from 9th place up to 2nd place, as he is now 1-1. In 3rd place, we have Paul's Cubert Rage. Falling to 4th, we have King's George. In 5th place, we have Tampa Brady. And falling from 2nd to 6th is Team B. It is clear that the odd division is destroying the even division, as they are up 7-3 through these first 2 weeks of the season. All right, let's check in on our league website just to get a heads up on what we can find over there. All right, so if you go to our league website here, it'll show you on the left side player news. On the right side, we'll show you a list of podcasts and episodes. In the center, we'll show you the most recent uploaded video of Wingman Fantasy Football, the league podcast. And in the center comment section is where I post the direct links to those episodes in video and audio form. If you want to see any of our old podcast episodes, just go to wingmanentertainment.net podcasts, and that's where all of our archived episodes will be. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. May your glasses be full, your mug stay frosty. Oh, one more thing before I get that. Let me pause real quick. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and TuneIn Radio. You can also check out on Wingman entertainment.net/WFF to get the most recent episodes of our podcast. Now, with that being said, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.